Joint Resolution 502 calling for a Article 5 convention to address the three items that were mentioned by the Secretary. I'm priming this bill this year because I think most of us who observe Washington would agree that they're out of control. We're approaching 37 trillion in our national debt. The interest on the debt is larger than our defense budget. It's larger than our Medicare budget. Government waste is rampant, as many people have seen the recent Festivus report that's prepared by Senator Rand Paul, where he highlights government waste and abuse. A couple of the items on there were billions of dollars paid in COVID aid to deceased individuals, studies to study cats to see if they get motion sickness when they're on the treadmill. I never let my cat on the treadmill because I don't want to risk it. So, and there's several other things that we've all heard of. Another item that it addresses is term limits. I went out and I looked and checked the 50 longest serving members of Congress. All of them served well over 40 years. 12 of them died in office. 9 of them are still serving. We've recently watched Senator Dianne Feinstein, who used to be an articulate, powerful member of the Senate from California, fade away in office to where the last time I saw her in a committee, her staff were directing her on what to say and how to vote. Clearly not in control of her duties. We have a history in our own state. One of our longest serving, Senator Carl Munt, had a stroke in office, refused to resign, and spent his last 3 years in office unable to fulfill his duties and leaving South Dakotans without representation in the Senate. Recently, there was a report of a congressional member from Texas who had gone missing, though the social media account remained active and lots of pictures. They noticed that no votes had been cast for 6 months. She was found in a memory care unit in Texas. And finally, the power of the federal bureaucracy is out of control. I recently read an article by Justice Neil Gorsuch where he discussed how the federal bureaucratic state is exercising not only executive authority, they're exercising legislative authority, and they're also exercising judicial authority, somewhat curtailed by the recently overturning of the Chevron case. But the federal agencies they're the ones who are deferred to when deciding what they have the right to regulate and what they don't have the right to regulate. And just finally, just some personal experience I've had with the federal government. Many of you know I'm a retired state employee. I managed the grain warehouse division. And during that time, there was a publishing of proposed rules by the U.S. Warehouse Act. One of those rules was for the Federal Warehouse Act to preempt state merchandising programs, which we had in place. The federal government does not regulate that at this time, only warehouse activities. But they had in their proposed rules that should they decide to promulgate rules to do that, they would preempt the states and take away our rights to regulate and protect our producers. Naturally, there was a pretty big outpouring of negative comments to those rules, mostly from the state departments of agriculture. And they withdrew that rule from the published proposed rules. But when the final rules came out, it was back in. And it came along with the assurances of the federal bureaucrats that they would never exercise that against the states. So I think it's time that we use Article 5, which is a provision that was put in the Constitution by the framers to give the states an opportunity to bring the federal government to heel. And I think it's well past time that happened. Thank you very much. I'll stand by for questions.